Alright, let's go ahead and try another practice drawing using Live Paint towards the end of the process. And this practice drawing is very similar to a filled icon. So if you need a reference for doing a filled icon, this would be it. I'm analyzing this and I'm seeing that this involves a lot of filled strokes. And I want to make sure I'm utilizing the tools that we've been going over, so I'll keep that in mind. Alright, so I'm going to come over here and start with the line segment tool. And I'll go ahead and hit D for default colors, and I'll cross out the white fill. And I will zoom in and make sure I'm in my drawing area. I'll go ahead and do this bottom water line first for this little boat. I'm going to increase the stroke weight, and I will open up my stroke panel. And if you've been messing around a lot with moving panels and you need to get back to the original setup, you can always go up to Essentials and Reset Essentials. And I like to collapse the libraries option. Okay, so stroke and show options. I'll go ahead and round out the caps, and I'll give it a dashed line look. So I'll try 20 with a gap of 10. So I'm just looking to kind of line up where the end of this boat meets the water. 40 point, and that looks about right. So 40, 15, 10, 15. I'll increase the stroke weight just a little bit more, and I'll hit A for the white arrow and extend this out just a little bit, holding down the shift key. And now I'll come back in with my line tool. I'll turn off the dash, and I'll try some of these other lines. Go ahead and take down the stroke weight a little bit more. So now I'm going to start on the boat. I'll go ahead and start with the pen tool. And I know I can create a lot of these curves just using the reshape tool and my live corners. So I'm just going to actually start with straight lines. So I'm using the pen tool, just clicking once, going to the next intersection, clicking again. I know this is going to be a corner, so I'll click right here and right here. And the last one will be up a little bit higher and then down here. Alright, so if you remember from before, to use reshape, we can do Shift and C to get the anchor point tool, which will do the same thing as the reshape tool. I went ahead and grabbed this part, so I'm clicking here and dragging with that. I'll go ahead and do that right here and right here. I'll come over to my white arrow, so A key. I'll click outside and I'll start rounding off these corners, just clicking once and then pulling that in just a little bit. And I'll round that a little bit more. And I'll round this corner and then this corner. Alright, that looks pretty good. I'll grab the pen tool again, so I'll just hit the P key. And then I know I need a line that goes across. So I'll just click once here. I'll try to make it intersect with this line, knowing that I'm after this going to use the live paint. And then here, I'll do Shift and C to access the anchor point tool. And then I'll see if I can bend this line into place. Yeah, that worked out pretty well. Command and click. Alright, let's keep going. So pen tool again. I'll do the top of the cabin here to here, Shift C, and I will get a little bit of a curve to this line. Come over here and increase the stroke a little bit more. Command click, and I'll go ahead and use the pen tool to connect the top, holding down the Shift key to the bottom. Command click when I'm done. And this line, I think I don't want a round cap, so I'll change it back to a butt cap and bring down the stroke weight a little bit. So I'll try the same thing on the back here. Command click when I'm done. Zoom in a little bit more. I need to create this curve here. So I'll just click once on this intersection. Okay, click once here, Shift C, and bend this line into place. Okay, and then Command click when I'm done. Go back to the pen tool, click once, hold down the Shift key, and click again. Click once, hold down on the Shift key, click again, and just finish up these windows. Go ahead and do this flagpole here. Command click when I'm done, stroke weight on that. Go ahead and use the ellipse tool, hold down on the Alt key and click, and I'll use the space bar to move that into place. I'm holding on 3 keys at once, Alt, Shift, and space bar. And I'll just kind of nudge that into place. Command and click, and that looks like a little too heavy of a stroke weight, so I'll bring that down. I'll hit L for the ellipse key again, and I will start from the center. Alt and click when I'm done. And I'll go ahead and use the pen tool for this smokestack, just holding down the Shift key, creating that rectangular shape. Do this segment here, and I'll use the white arrow and select these corners, and I can see up here in my control panel I can modify those corners. I'll go ahead and type in 0.05 and enter, softening those corners a little bit. Okay, so now for this flag, I'm going to zoom in, and once again I'm going to try and just see what I can get away with just using the reshape tool. So I'm starting with the pen tool, trying to find those intersections. So let's start with that. I'll do Shift C, and I'm going to pull this up here, and then I'll actually pull this out. I'm looking to kind of get a smooth line right here. That worked pretty well. And I can pull this down. And I'll do Command click when I'm done with that. That's pretty good. I'll go ahead and hit the V key, and I'll take this line, hold down on the Alt key, and make a copy of it. So I'll just pull it down over to here. I'll go back to my pen tool. Remember, when I hover next to a line, I can continue it. So I'll just click from here to here. Shift C, and I'll go ahead and pull this one out. And then I'll do the same thing one more time. So P key for the pen tool. Okay, I'm going to click once here to here. Shift C, and then I will pull this line in. Now, I really don't like how these corners are ending, so I will round off the caps. Round off those corners, and then I'll hit the right arrow just to nudge it over a little bit more. Okay, so that's the drawing portion, and now we need to start coloring. So before I use the live paint, I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of these vectors. I'll hit V for the black arrow, and then I will select all of those vector paths. I'll go ahead and make a new layer, and I can name it Original. And now that those are selected, I'll come over to the square, hold down on the Alt key, and I'll drag it into the new layer. I'll lock that new layer, and I'll take off the visibility. And then I'll click in my drawing area. So now I can select all of these. So I'm going to actually keep the visibility on for the original paths, and I'll click on my drawing area, and I'm going to take off the stroke on those paths. Even though all the paths are still there, if I were to take off the visibility, we wouldn't see anything, but since I made a copy of those paths, we can see all the line strokes. So I'll select it all again, and I'll hit K from my live paint tool. I'll go ahead and click once to let the computer know that I'm ready to start live painting. I'll close the layers and open the swatches. And I'll go to my swatch libraries, and let's choose a palette of different colors. Let's go ahead and try corporate. So this would be like corporate logos. I'll just work with this one for a little bit. I'm going to do option icon, and I'll try medium thumbnail view. And I'll go ahead and let's try this red right here. Okay, I'll fill in the top of the boat with this red, the top of the chimney of that smokestack, and definitely want to use some of these grays. Let's see, I'll use these ones up here. I'll use this dark gray for the chimney, and I'll use this blue for the windows, and I want kind of an off-white for part of the boat. I'll go ahead and use that. For the flag, I'll go with kind of a muted yellow. Use the same red for the top of that flagpole. So now that I have these filled in, I can think about kind of value breakups, or what I would say is like fake shading, or very reductive shading. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my black arrow and click. And if you remember, we can actually add new paths and then merge the live paint group. So that's how I'm going to approach adding kind of these new areas of shading. So I'll go ahead and use the pen tool, P for pen. Just so it's easier to see, I'll use a black stroke and no fill. And I'll bring the stroke down to 0.5 points. And now I'll come in here and actually start creating some new paths, making sure to get them right on those intersections so it's easier for the live paint to read. I'll do Shift C to modify this one. Okay, that's about good. I'll do one right here for the smokestack. Zoom in a little bit and make sure I can see that. So black stroke and 0.5. I'll look for that intersect prompt from the Smart Guides. So I know I want, a lighter color here and this darker color here. And for the windows, I'll click here to here. Shift C, put a curve to that. And I'll do the same thing here. P for the pen tool, here to here. Shift C, and I'll move that up. Okay, last part's over here on the flag. So I'll go ahead and click once here and click once here. Shift C, and get a little curve to that. I'll go here, Shift C, and curve that one a little bit. And now that I'm looking, I actually want a little curve here on this ball on top. So I'll do a line that goes across there, and Shift C, and there. Okay, so now I have kind of the general color breakup that I want to work with. Maybe this one needs a little bit more of a curve. There we go. Okay, so I'll use the black arrow and I'll select all the paths again. And then I'll come up here to the Merge Live Paint. Okay, so now that's a new paint group. And I'll go ahead and hit K for the live paint tool again. Okay, now I need to load the color I want to use here. I'm going to go ahead and choose the color I was just using for that red, and I'll go ahead, click the stroke and cross that out and activate the fill again. Okay, so if you're having some issues on here, just make sure you have just the fill and no stroke. I'm going to go ahead and double click to get my color picker, and I will move this over because I know I want a muted version with a tint of white in there. Just something like that, and I'll click OK. And now using that color, I can get that color breakup now. There and there. I'll go ahead and choose another color for this off-white, so I'll double click on that, and I'll actually move this up almost to just pure white. So right about there, click OK. There we go. Okay, so for the flag, I want to actually use that yellow I was using before, but I want a darker toned version of that color, so I'll move that down. Click OK. Alright, that's working. And the gray for the smokestack was here. Let's see if we can just use the one right next to it. Yeah, that works out well. And then finally the blue for this window. Go ahead and try this blue and fill that in. Okay, so now that I've filled in all those colors, I'm just going to select the entire live paint group, and I will take off any strokes that are visible because I have my other strokes on another layer. So there we have it, a nice line outline drawing. This could possibly work as an icon, and we did it using most of the tools that we've gone over.